Hey everybody, Bungzy here with another ultralight review on ultralight backpacking. If you haven't seen it already, I have a B-roll video out there already on the Tarptent Notch Li with tons of close-ups of the tent that you're not going to see elsewhere. I have a link floating up there in case you haven't seen it. Go ahead, watch it. It's a good video, I think. Today, though, the music sucks. Today, though, I have some experience and observations of this tent to share with you. Shall we? For those not familiar with this new tent model, it is an ultralight Cuban version of Tarptent's popular one-person double-wall notch tent. Let's start with what I like about this tent. Number one, it's light. It comes in at 19.9 ounces. Not only is that a crazy light tent, but you save some additional weight by only needing 4 tent stakes. Number two, it's a double wall tent. Pretty much one of a kind when it comes to UL Cuban double wall tents. Personally, I'm just as happy in a single wall tent, but for many, a double wall tent represents added comfort and security. This is a very small tent, so it's worth pointing out that the inner keeps you away from any condensation collected on the inside of the Cuban outer. A single wall tent of similar dimensions would be a challenge to keep from touching the tent walls. Another selling point. It's also worth noting that the inner is attached. So unlike the vast majority of double wall tents, you don't have to set up the inner first and then attach the outer. It all goes up as one. Also, a pretty unique selling point when it comes to double wall tents. Benefit number 3, easiest setup ever. I'm not exaggerating. I've never had a tent set up as quickly and easily as this tent. It's actually fun to set up. Again, just 4 stakes and there are no weird guy out angles. Everything is at right angles to the tent. Selling point number 4. This little guy is a double entry tent. Why does a one-person tent need or benefit from 2 doors? Well, it's double the storage, though I personally prefer keeping my stuff inside, but that's a selling point. More importantly, though, there's tons of airflow. Most other UL one-person tents are single door entry, and as a result, have less storage and do not breathe nearly as well. There's no real cross breeze when one door. Those little opposite side beaks or windows you see on some one-door UL tents are no substitute for a second door. Doesn't come anywhere close. Selling point number 5, the view. When you have all 4 door sections rolled up, it's fantastic. You not only have the side views, but it also partially opens up the roof, so you can see the stars above as well. This is all with the outer still attached, which again is a huge selling point. You save time and don't have to play weatherman. Your outer is there and deployed within seconds. And the last highlight for me worth noting is the small overall footprint. You can pitch this tent in the smallest of spots. It's not only a small footprint, but again, there are only 4 guy outs and they don't reach out very far. So no field of trip wires around your tent. Now for the negatives. Number 1, the Cuban is thinner than any Cuban tent I've seen. It's too thin. The stuff sack seam began to rip along the stitches, and my tent pole slipped once during setup and went right through the tent like it was paper. It's easy to repair in the field with Cuban tape, but still, you need to be very careful with this tent and definitely bring some Cuban repair tape with you in the field. Number 2, some of the hardware is very delicate. It relies on tiny plastic mitten hooks to keep the inner attached to the outer. True story. I was recently hiking the Lost Coast Trail in California. A very nearby mountain lion howled in the middle of the night. I sat straight up from a dead sleep and one of the corner mitten hooks snapped from my head, brushing across the inner net wall. That's all it took. There is a lot of tension on those up high corner mitten hooks. I'm sorry, but it's not a good hardware choice. Number 3, in my dislikes, is a little subjective. One of the selling points of the tent, which I mentioned earlier, is how quickly and easily the tent sets up. However, this assumes you leave the 4 end struts in. When you do so, this tent doesn't fit well in any unstructured UL packs. The roll-up tent is too long. This forces you to remove the struts and store them on the outside of your pack. This not only slows down setup, but the ends of the tent have a mishmash of strut straps, guy lines, inner attachment straps, and outer straps that can and do get tangled easily. It's a pain to reorient all the straps once you remove the struts. Number 4, the bathtub floor is really small. It's really not a big deal when it's dry, but throw in some rain and everything changes. This is true for any tiny floor tent. I have the same complaint, for instance, about the Z-Pack's Hexamid tents with detachable bathtub floors. It becomes a constant chore throughout the night, making sure nothing spills over the edge of the bathtub and starts soaking up water. One last comment. No trekking pole supported tent sets up well or easily in sand. I still thought I'd give it a shot on a recent trip. All I have to say is thank God for driftwood. Again, no trekking pole supported tent performs well in sand, but the fewer the stakes, the bigger the challenge. Well, that's all the time I need. Those are the facts, at least my facts. I hope I gave you something to think about. Subscribe to my channel by clicking the Bungzy logo, and I'll catch you on my next ultralight review on ultralight backpacking. See ya.